You picked up your phone 11 minutes ago. You are not sure why. Nothing happened. No sound, no vibration, no reason at all. And yet here you are, thumb already moving toward the screen. This is not a willpower problem. This is not a generational problem. This is something much older than the phone in your hand. Your brain was built by a world that no longer exists. Back then, checking your surroundings kept you alive. Now, it just keeps you scrolling. So what is actually happening inside your skull every time you reach for that glowing rectangle? The answer starts almost 100 years before the smartphone was ever invented. In the 1930s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner ran a strange experiment with pigeons. He put them in a box with a lever. Press the lever, get a food pellet. Simple enough. But then Skinner changed one thing. Instead of a pellet every time, the pigeons got a pellet at random intervals. Sometimes after one press. Sometimes after 20. Something unexpected happened. The pigeons did not press the lever less. They pressed it more. Obsessively. Compulsively. Far more than the pigeons who got a reward every single time. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. Uncertainty, it turned out, was more addictive than certainty. The not knowing was the hook. Does that sound familiar yet? Every time you unlock your phone, you are the pigeon. Sometimes there is a message. Sometimes there is nothing. You never know which one it will be. That uncertainty is not an accident. It is the exact mechanism Skinner discovered, rebuilt in glass and silicon and delivered to your pocket. But uncertainty alone does not explain the itch. For that, you have to go inside the brain itself. In the 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz was studying dopamine in monkeys. For decades, dopamine had been called the pleasure chemical. Schultz found something stranger. Dopamine did not spike when the monkeys received a reward they expected. It spiked when the reward was uncertain. It spiked hardest right before the outcome, in that thin sliver of not yet knowing. In other words, your brain does not crave the reward. It craves the anticipation of the reward. The checking is the point, not what you find when you check. This is why refreshing an empty inbox can feel almost as compelling as opening a message that matters. Your dopamine system already fired. The content barely registers. Think about your ancestors for a moment. 50,000 years ago, checking your environment was not a distraction. It was survival. A rustle in the grass might be wind. It might be a predator. The humans who checked, who stayed alert, who scanned the tree line one more time just to be sure, were the ones who passed on their genes. The ones who stopped checking did not. Your brain still runs that ancient program. It just does not know the rustling grass has been replaced by a notification badge. There is a second ancestral wire being triggered here too, and it comes from something even older than danger. It comes from belonging. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent years studying primate social groups. He found that grooming, the simple act of picking through another animal's fur, was not really about hygiene. It was about maintaining social bonds. It was about knowing where you stood in the group. Dunbar proposed that human gossip, our endless talking about who did what to whom, evolved as a kind of verbal grooming, a way of tracking the social web that once determined whether you would be protected or abandoned. Losing your place in that web was not a minor inconvenience for early humans. It could mean losing access to food, protection, and survival itself. Now look at your phone again. Every like is a grooming signal. Every message is a thread in the social web. Every notification whispers the same ancient question your ancestors needed answered constantly. Are you still in the group? You are not checking your phone because you are weak. You are checking it because 3 separate ancient systems are firing at once. Uncertainty from a reward schedule your brain cannot resist. Anticipation from a dopamine system that cares more about the maybe than the moment. And belonging from a social tracking instinct that once meant the difference between life and death. None of these systems know the difference between a text message and a lion in the grass. To your nervous system, both are simply signals that something in your environment has changed and might matter. Here is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The people who design these apps know all 3 of these mechanisms by name. They do not need to guess what makes you check. They have read the same research you just did, and they have built products around it deliberately. Pull to refresh mimics a slot machine lever. Red notification badges exploit the same threat detection circuitry that once scanned for predators. Infinite scroll removes the natural stopping cues your brain used to rely on, the ones that once told you a task was finished. So is this just a design problem? Not entirely. The tools are new. The wiring underneath them is not. Humans have always been drawn to uncertainty, anticipation, and social connection. What changed is the speed and scale at which those cravings can now be triggered over and over, thousands of times a day. Here is what actually helps, and it is not what you might expect. It is not more willpower. Willpower was never the mechanism being exploited in the first place. What helps is making the uncertainty visible. Turning off badge notifications removes the unpredictable cue your dopamine system is hunting for. Checking messages at set times instead of randomly throughout the day starves the variable reward loop that Skinner's pigeons could not resist. And understanding the social piece matters too. You do not need constant digital contact to know you belong somewhere. That instinct is thousands of years old, but the world it was built for had real faces, real voices, real presence. Not a feed. Some of the most focused people are not the ones with the most discipline. They are the ones who simply removed the unpredictable stimulus. No badge, no wondering to interrupt. Because none of this is really about the phone at all. It is about a brain built for a savanna, dropped into a world of endless pings, still doing exactly what it was designed to do. You picked up your phone 11 minutes ago. You still are not sure why, but now, at least, you know exactly who built that urge. It was not a stranger. It was every ancestor who ever survived by paying attention, and somewhere in your skull, that ancestor is still checking the grass.